Welcome back. It's time to talk about your money, and today we're focusing on how international trends and events affect our local economy. And joining the conversation to my far left is Dr. Eksen Iraki, who's an economist, as well as Felix Okach, who's a multilateral trade expert. Welcome to the show, gents. I'm very excited about this particular topic because we rarely get to draw those webs and figure out how we are affected. And let's start off with the matter of Brexit. How is that our problem also? Because, of course, we have seen an increase of interest in Africa as African nations, rather as trade partners, and digging deeper into the markets by the UK, which was obviously something that was happening, but it's more keen right now because post-Brexit, which is officially happening at the end of this month. So I'll start with you, sir. Tell us.
Not Daktari. If you look at the history of Brexit, talk of EU.
Yes.
It starts with the EU Maastricht Treaty up to the time.
Perhaps we should define what Brexit is in case. Yeah.
Essentially, Brexit is the British exiting from the European Union.
Yes.
They debated that we'd got to get out of it.
Yes.
And what were the reasons? There were many reasons, but they convinced the electorate that actually to get out, they were not looking at trade aspect much more. It was mainly the immigrants coming in.
Yes.
Particularly the immigrants who are getting into Italy, France, eventually getting their way into Europe because of Schengen arrangement. So they said, in this case, we don't want them to come. That's one. Two, the foreigners who are coming in were taking the businesses or jobs of the locals. So they said, we don't want. So voting, they voted clear, we don't want back. To be in EU. That was the main thing.
But it didn't prove as easy as it had sounded during the campaigns, did it? Because of all the complications. And,
it came in up and down, but eventually, as Boris Johnson puts it, they have listened to the voice of the people. You get out of it. Now, on getting out, there are also consequences. Now that we are out, what trade arrangements do we have? That's why now they're coming to make sure that we get our colonies together.
Yes.
The UK Africa conference, they host that conference, showing that in Africa we got done a lot with you, particularly in Kenya, of course, the investments coming in, there are companies in Kenya, the language is one, the institutions, the universities in Britain, most Kenyans have gone through that, and they have to show that. So when this meeting was hosted in London this month, what the emphasis was that Africa, you were with you. Now we're on this arrangement, make sure we go together. We have invested in your country at length. And I remember Boris Johnson saying at length that, you see, in as much as another meeting also in France on the same topic issue, but he quoted what's called a Akan proverb. You know, Akan are the people, the tribe in Ghana, Togo, up to Cote d'Ivoire. So he said there's a Akan proverb which says that the hand has got 5 fingers and they're never the same. So you're saying that things are not the same, but let's still know that we're moving on. And in this speech, they were trying to refer to China, that okay, in as much as you got arrangement with other parties, do it, but in our case, we are better off in the sense.
Because of our history, shared history.
Shared history. And then he said, in our case, we shall not bring our people to work there, we'll give you the investment, things like that.
Yeah, obviously they're trying to make a case for themselves. And just Dr. Iraki, what do you make of Brexit and how it's affecting us?
First of all, it's very entertaining. Because anybody looking at Brexit from the time they voted to leave European Union, it was almost like a circus. So I wouldn't be surprised at the end of this month, they say we want another extension. But basically what was at heart is Britain's disengaging from Europe. Remember that UK joined the European Union in 1973, way much after the other countries. Remember, they never stopped using the pound. So
when the others changed to the euro,
so I don't think anybody should be very surprised by Brexit. I think the problem is the politicians and the voters were not sure of what to happen after that. That's why they are rushing to come up with trade deals with America, with the Commonwealth, the other countries. Because they realized we are better together. But now they are exiting. Now, one of the biggest beneficiaries of Brexit, surprisingly, is the Commonwealth. Commonwealth was forgotten. Now everybody is talking about the Commonwealth. So Britain is coming back to the old connections, the 53 Commonwealth countries. And that's why the president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, was in London the other day. he is telling the Commonwealth guys or Commonwealth readers, we can talk together. When I was a young boy, all the cars I saw on the Kenyan road were Morris, Ford, Cortina, Anglia, and everything was made in England. Then that disappeared. So although Britain is going back to the Commonwealth, it is going to find that other players had come in.
Yes,
China is there,
yes.
Turkey is there, and a lot of other countries.
Too.
Japan is there.
Yes.
So they came to replace the departing Britons. So it's a hard sell, but I don't think the British voters and leaders were expected for that. And as an economist, it would be a very interesting experiment to watch.
Yes. Do you think they should have maybe done the groundwork, the sort of things we're seeing right now before initiating Brexit?
I think the problem is that you're not a politician.
Yeah.
And politicians don't have time for that.
Yes.
They look at the mood. And you notice that Brexit, apart from being a divorce from European Union, was also a path for somebody to become a prime minister. It was a wrong game. Most of us never saw it. So as a politician...
Was it Boris?
Boris.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to say that.
Obviously, because he was on the other side.
Yes. As a politician, you create a problem, then you worry about the consequence later on. And the good thing is, if you don't deal with the consequences, there is always something to deal with it. So I don't think they did any groundwork. It was not necessary as a politician. And I like this debate because it is divorced from BBI. And the BBI, they are doing the same.
They're talking about the bit. It's the same.
So once it goes through, they're now going to start asking, what do we vote for? We vote for regional governments. Who is going to fund it? We voted for this. Who is going to fund it? That's why it is important that when people are having political debates, we have some honest brokers. Like trade analysts like him, academics and so on. Because if we leave politicians to just politic, they will lead us to very interesting places.
Now, I'd like us to demystify some headlines that came off of that forum that had the UK trying to meet with African leaders. And there was a lot of comparison with other forums, maybe like the FOCACs and the ones we have in Japan. And there was the sentiment that some African leaders have snubbed the UK's attempt to reach out to them for bilateral trade and bolstering those relations. Was it accurate to say that they were ignoring the UK, or is it just a question of who we are allied to, given our past?
I think given our past, Britain have succeeded in the arrangement.
Yes.
Because when you talk of trade, in most cases, you talk of either you're close to one another or you got something in common, like a language. So in our case, there's a language. Then the historical relationship over time. The best of us who go to school, ahead earlier than us, think of going to Britain. And there are also British investments in Kenya. For example, let me give Kenya an example. You go to Unilever, you go to Barclays Bank, Standard G4, the whole lot are here, including Talu. And boys just use that to show what we are. And even show that in Uganda, they'll import the Ankole cattle to meat from the Ankole, whatever it is. So that means that relationship can be extended further. If you go back to China, relationship with China or Japan, it's mainly money. Language is a problem. Culture is a problem. And then with the Chinese coming in, there are also issues. They're perpetuating corruption. Because of corruption, that's why things are being done the way they're supposed to be done. But the British would have not done that way. So that proximity with Britain, historical, cultural, makes it easier for them to persuade us the way we're going. The same thing with France. In fact, if you go to Franco region, that's Dakar, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, and the lot. I have to see France as home. Felix Oufeboni, whose name I think like mine, he was a member of parliament in Paris. So they look at France as home. That's the language they're talking. The college, the school, and those are the investments they have. So when you put that one vis-a-vis the China and Japan, it's a bit difficult. I don't know. But
then that explains why we're having perhaps more former colonies of the British perhaps going towards this direction, as opposed to the others who are probably colonized by other countries, such as the Francophone that you're speaking to, right? This would explain the attendance that many people were questioning, Dr. Iraki.
I think the comparison you are raising is a pattern. US used to hold out of meetings with a lot of world leaders. And then after some time, they relaxed. So China saw the opportunity. they have been hosting African countries, I think, biannual conference.
Yeah.
Then China realized, not China, but Japan realized we are being overtaken. So they came up with their TICAD.
Yes.
And then
to TICAD to FOCAC, I think.
Yes,
yeah.
they are trying to counterbalance the
Yes.
Chinese entry to Africa. So when Britain now started doing the same, is now third, because we have been having China there, we have been Japan there. So I think the biggest problem I have with the British approach is that they exited Africa for a long time, now they're coming back. It's like, you are my wife, we divorce, I go look for another wife, I can't get, I come back to you. We may come back together, but there will be some issues. Yes, there will be some issues. So I think that's why I'm saying that it's not a good comparison, because the approach is different. He talked about cultural language similarities. But if you look at Japanese, they have made inroads into this country through cars and other products. But very few of us talk Japanese. The Chinese have made inroads into the trade of this country, but very few of us talk Chinese. So the approach is different. The approach Britons used 50 years ago, or during colonial era, is different from what the Japanese and what the Chinese are doing. Because what modern people are after is quality products and quality services. You don't care the language of that person. You don't care the origin of that person. When I'm buying a watch, I don't care where it is made. Is it a quality watch? So the geopolitics and geoeconomics have changed. And that's the reality Britons are going to find. I don't see myself buying a Rayland or an Agria or a Land Rover anytime soon. After all, even Land Rover was bought out. So it's a very different socio-economic environment. And we are watching to see what is going to happen.
Right. And speaking of socioeconomics and also international politics, there's the Belt and Road, which I think we should also not fail to mention. That is an international, well, it's a blueprint for development for another country that has roped in a number of countries through Africa all the way to Europe.
And that's what I find interesting about One Belt, One Road initiative. He's saying that the Britons will get inroads into the Commonwealth because of historical ties. But look at how strategic Chinese are. If you look at One Belt, One Road initiative, they have talked about the Silk Road, 1200, through Italy up to China. And you remember when Chinese started coming here, they went to Ramu, did some excavation, and they were able to say that, they were able to prove archaeologically that Chinese were here before Portuguese. So just like the Britons, the Chinese are able to come up with historical connections that we were there before you. We are not coming for the second time. No, we are not coming for the first time. We have been there before. And that's what makes the whole geopolitics, geoeconomics very complicated. The Chinese entry into Africa is not just about money, it's not about trade. They also have historical connections.
Historical connection and a claim to friendship with the African people.
And that gives them a fair advantage.
But the Belt Road Initiative, of course, it was to open bridges and roads where they're going to do business. And it's not only Africa, it was a lot of Southeast Asia, going to Eastern Europe. Up to part of it came here through the SGR and all of. That's a strategic plan of doing business across, which is good, and they're investing. But it has brought certain consequences, and people hate them. For example, is it Ceylon where they took a port? Is it Ceylon?
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, they took a port. In Kenya, they're talking about issues of SGR. In Kenya, you find even Kenyans saying that these guys are taking our jobs. The British are not coming to take small, but they see, that kind of it is going slowly. But
doesn't that boil down to how we negotiate with how we interact with them?
It's going on even in the French regions where they've gone in, there are issues. You understand?
So you argue that if we had a commonality like with the British, then this wouldn't be a problem?
The advantage of the British argument is that with them, because of historical background, and they're saying the business is yours, we'll give you the money, you'll run the Unilever, you'll run the Barclays Bank, you'll run Standard Bank, the way you do it, the better. But then the negative thing in perception are getting about from China, the Exim Bank is going to make us pay a lot of money. Corruption is perpetuated through the Chinese method of getting in, among other things. It might be difficult for them to settle here much longer than the British.
It might
but the
take
British
time.
are using this opportunity to make sure they're still around us. And the French are also doing the same on the other side with the support of the Americans. Of course, the Americans also don't want China and a lot.
Yeah, and another issue, let's jump into the Soleimani, the death of General Soleimani did have ripples across the world when the US actually did that, and we saw oil prices shooting. I'd like Dr. Iraqi to please help us understand how in the world, with something happening far off in the Middle East, have effect on oil prices right here at home, but it happened almost immediately. Explain that.
Did you choose me first because my name Iraqi and Iran are very close?
Yeah.
I think that is why what is making this debate very interesting.
Yes.
We are moving from the BBI issues, local issues, to global issues, which they happen far away, but they affect us in one or the other.
Yes.
So when General Soleimani was killed by Americans, it was seen as a sign of destabilization of the Middle East, where most of the oil comes from. And Iran has always threatened that if it is attacked or something happens, they can cross the waterways where we get oil from.
Yes.
So the market reacted by raising the prices up. So it might not have happened in Kenya, but the expectation is that there will be lower supply of oil in future, and that means the price went up. Now the debate between the US and Iran is wrong, starting from 1979, when a Western-leaning regime in Iran was removed, the Shah, and then they have always been fighting each other. Now, and it's not going to stop because Iran want to become a Middle East power, and they have already tested some power by stopping Americans in Syria, by supporting the regime of Bashir Assad. So once there is destabilization in the Middle East, the price of oil goes up. We have not yet had enough oil in this country to stop depending on imports. So when the price goes up, we will feel it. And I think last month the price of oil went up. So it might happen far away, but we need to be very aware of what is happening elsewhere.
And it's also important to note the UK also talked about tallow oil. They're going to have some sort of relations with Kenya to that effect.
Maybe they may exploit more oil because there's a shortage from the Middle East.
Let me comment on the oil issue.
Yes, please.
Luckily enough, because my background is I used to work in an oil industry. Those we are calling fuel hydrocarbons, those liquids which explode at very low temperature.
You must be very good in chemistry.
No, now, way back when Richard Nixon was president of the US, way back in 1974, there was something you could more war, which the US supported Israeli. And the Arab world increased the price of oil from $3 per barrel to about $6, 100%.
Yes.
And that's the time inflation of 74 came in. It took the whole world changed. But US also tried to make sure that other OPEC producers like Angola, Nigeria increase the output. And that's how we leveled the prices. So oil is always like that. Even what has occurred now, you see initially the prices went up. But then the other countries increased production per day. It's called barrels per calendar day. So they increase the production within a short while. It takes time. And then that will level the prices.
Balanced it out. Okay. And also I love that you brought up Nigeria, because I think a few years ago, well, in the past few years ago, they have had a problem because their economy has not diversified and they were depending heavily on oil, and therefore when things shift internationally, they suffer locally. Could you speak to that as well?
In Nigeria, they're selling crude, but only few fellows pocket it in London. So there's nothing at all. Nothing.
But I think that's an interesting question you are raising, because one of the biggest advantages we have is that we discovered oil late. When the Kenyan economy was diversified. So we may not be able to suffer from the oil curse like Nigeria and others. So, and that's why Kenyans are not excited about oil as Nigeria and so on, because we have options. And there's also the threat of direct cuts, but we may not have as much demand for oil as in the past. But you also must remember that some of the high demanders of oil, like the US, have developed alternative sources of oil, like fracking and getting oil from areas you could not get in the past. And that's why, although Middle East oil has been restricted by the killing of the general, it is not spike as much as expected. So people are looking for alternatives. After all, the world will not run on oil forever. One day we shall run out of oil. And that's why everybody is now talking about renewable energy.
And we're having
cars, the wind turbines in Gong.
And
Kipepeo and elsewhere. So people are looking at the future. And that is why, because of that future, that we may one time stop using oil, it's not having as much impact. In the Middle East, problems are not having as much impact
on us as they would in the past, perhaps.
Like now, if you look at the energy production in the country or consumption, there's a lot of hydro, there's geothermal.
Yes.
And Kenya is also has a foot in geothermal as well. Yes, so we're not doing badly off as far as diversification is concerned. And another issue would be the coronavirus. It's happening all the way in China, and we've seen a story on our international news segment on where it's come from and its effect on the world as far as health. Some tens have died and thousands have been infected worldwide. But then also it's affecting trade, right? Yeah. So could you tell us more about that?
When I came in the morning, I was seated there, and he came to greet me, and I coughed. and I
moved away.
He looked very scared. Yeah. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I think this is not a medical issue only. People see coronavirus as a medical issue, but it's also an economic issue.
Yes.
When you cross down a city of 11 million like Wuhan,
imagine that,
and other cities, it means you are going to stop economic activities.
Okay.
And very soon or later, that slowdown in economic activity will be reflected in the whole Chinese economy. And China has become a world power, economic power, the second biggest economy in the world. So it has become like America, another locomotive of the world economy. So if there's slowdown in Chinese economy, the whole world is going to slow down. And we trade with China. We import goods from
Heavily
China.
So.
We also export some goods in China. So one of the unexpected benefits is
of
oil.
The coronavirus?
Yes, is oil.
How come?
Because if the Chinese economy slows down, there will be less demand for oil. And the price of oil will go down.
Okay.
So it's unfortunate that every bad thing has something positive.
Something positive about it.
But we need to worry about it because of economic consequences. It's also very contagious. Some people are traveling from China to Kenya and other parts of the world. But like SARS sometimes ago, 2003, I believe we have the scientific capability to control it.
To control that.
So we should not sleep. We should not lose our sleep over coronavirus. I'm sure we are going to get a cure.
Okay.
I'll comment on that, the issue of the disease and business, trade, from this perspective. You see, I had the radio the other day when people in Malindi were complaining that now they cannot sell their lobster oysters to China because of the disease, which means it's affected their business.
Yes.
But now, if you come to international trade, that's World Trade Organization, there's an agreement which is called SPS.
All right.
Let me explain it slowly. It's called Sanitary and Phytosanitary Standards. If an outbreak of a disease, like anthrax, the one for cow, or Madengue tree, the one for plant, or human beings, is going to affect you, you stop trade, you take a unilateral decision to stop trading with those people.
Yes.
So even like yellow fever, sometimes when you're traveling, unless you got yellow fever certificate, you don't enter certain country.
Yes, true.
So the same thing is happening now with China.
Yes.
And of course, it's going to affect us a lot.
That's so it's beyond us in that sense.
Yes.
And last but not least, as we wind up, the fires that ravaged Australia, how did that, they seem so distant, but they do actually come down to us and affect many other countries. Dr. Exxon.
And also, mention the 5 Amazon as well, not only Australia.
Yeah, Amazon too, yes.
I think I'm very mesmerized by the climatic change. This is the wettest January I've witnessed in my life.
Yeah.
I'm not that old, but I've never seen January raining from the beginning of the month up to the end of the month. So the issue of climatic change is real.
Yes.
That's why you are seeing Australia. One time there's bushfire, next time there are floods.
Yeah.
Now when those bushes burn, that smoke goes all over the world.
Okay.
It crosses borders. So it affects weather in other parts of the world. And maybe that's why you are finding that we are having rain in January. So climate change does not know borders, does not know threads. So one positive aspect of these fires might be that we are now going to become more conscious of climatic change. And maybe Thunberg and others and Donald Trump and others are going to start taking climatic change seriously.
Yes.
Because that has implications on the economy, again, just like coronavirus.
You Mr. Okachi, your take?
On the climate change?
Yes. I would rather leave it at the other topic.
Because my views are divergent. It's about climate change.
Okay,
What causes rain, of course, you know, temperatures, whatever it is, rain will fall. And then exponentially you can count days, how it is raining over time. We know that these are the growing season and planting season. Those are there and we know what it is. So what they need to do is just show us this is the season you should plant, you don't plant because of small changes.
Because they're predictable.
But when climate change comes in, the final Australia, of course there was flood also in Madare Valley, people died.
I can give you a very good example.
Yes.
In a village where I grew up, which I'm not going to disclose for security reasons. Prams usually ripen around Christmas.
Right.
They are ripening now.
Oh, okay.
1 month later. I've never seen something like that.
Yes.
So when the weather is not predictable, farmers are very confused. They don't know when to plant.
And these are trade commodities.
And you can see now, people are supposed to be harvesting maize. It is raining.
Oh, it's raining. Okay.
We're supposed to be harvesting wheat. It's raining.
Yeah.
So there are consequences on food security because of climatic change.
Okay, we've run out of time. Dr. Exen Iraq is an economist, as well as Felix Okach, multilateral trade expert. I have loved having you over for this discussion. But on that note, we have to close the show. I have been your host, Trix Ingad.